Alright, so we're going to start with the GDD to look at what is the ball doing. When the ball bounces around the room and it breaks bricks, that means it's got to bounce off of stuff. Right? A bounce is a change in direction. Now, when it comes to bricks, the bricks, we can hit the bricks from anywhere, right? Bricks are floating out in the room. Because the bricks are floating out in the room and the ball can hit them anywhere, it could be a very, very complex thing in order to figure out exactly where the ball is and where the brick is and then how to make the ball bounce. Okay? Older versions of Game Maker had a block that was the bounce block. That all it was, you just added the bounce block and it would bounce. They have since taken that away, but they left it in the Game Maker language. Because they left it in the Game Maker language, we can still access it, we just have to do it a little bit differently than we would do in the old Game Maker language, which is using just a block. What we can do is we can call a function, and that function is going to do the bouncing for us. So really, we're still trying to do kind of the same thing. We're only using one block. It's just a different block that we're using, and we have to understand kind of what a function is and how a function works. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do when I go back to Game Maker, first of all, is I'm going to actually, I'm going to fill out my bricks here. So I'm going to move some bricks so that I have a rectangle, basically. And then I'm going to add some more bricks. So I'm going to make sure I have the brick object selected. And I'm going to fill in my gaps here and just try and add so that I have a rectangle of bricks, right? One, it's going to be easier for me to hit the bricks if there's a rectangle there, and I can just do that. Plus, now I have my first level set up, so I'm all ready to go. So if you haven't done that yet, I would set up at least a rectangle of bricks. My rectangle is currently 6 by 4, means there's 24 bricks there. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, 12 by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So it's 12 by 4, so there's 48 bricks. 32 by 16. 16. Ball is 16 by 16. 64 by 16. Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to the ball and bouncing off of a brick, of course, we're going to go to the object ball. So we're going to double click on OBJ ball to get there. And I'm going to add a new event. I'm going to add the collision event with the brick. Okay? Because two things need to happen. One, when we hit the brick object with the ball, ball's got to bounce, brick's got to be destroyed. But if we remember from our game design document, and I can go back and show you, when a brick breaks, we also need to, 1, add points, and 2, have a Powerup Drop. Eventually, we'll do that. So we could do that with the ball, but it might be harder to do with the ball. So I'm actually going to go ahead and we're going to use the brick itself and use a collision event with the ball for the brick. So we're going to do both of those things. So rather than destroy the brick in the ball's collision object, we're going to do it in the brick's collision object with the ball, or collision event with the ball. So, back to our game. Alright, so we're in the collision object with the brick. And as I said, there is no bounce. There is no bounce. There is no bounce block, right? There's reverse direction, but that's still not exactly it. Even though bouncing is reversing a direction. So we're gonna access a function from the Game Maker language. So here are some execute whatever. This one is it. This one is the one we wanted. So it's got the two, looks like greater than signs. It's a function call. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag that over, and we'll zoom in just so we can see it. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. Okay. So the function call, and really it's any function call. So a function to give you an idea, a function is a packaged set of code in GameMaker, or in any language really. It's a packaged set of code that we give a name to so that we can call it and it'll do whatever it says it'll do. In this case, we're going to do something to bounce. It's called technically an abstraction because we're reducing, we don't need to know what's inside this function to know how to use it. We just know if we call the function, it's going to work because it says what it's going to do. This function is called move underscore bounce underscore all. Okay? And you'll see it pops up. And it pops up and it says, inside there it says advanced. And basically what it is inside those parentheses is called an argument. An argument is a value we pass to the function so it can do something. In this case, do we want to use advanced bouncing? The answer is yes, we do. So we're going to type true for the argument. Because true is telling the move bounce all function to do advanced bouncing. Okay? Now, this is doing all the stuff we need to do for bouncing. What I would need to do normally is if I hit, I would need to check, I guess, where the ball and where the, like what part of the ball hit what part of the brick, and and do all that stuff. The problem is that there's a lot of those to do, right? Because there's 4 sides to the brick, and so I'd have to figure out how to make it bounce off of all 4 of those sides. Might be more complicated. This will do all that for us. So we don't have to know exactly what it does. We just know that this will bounce. Okay? And we can test that really quickly. Now, I do want to make sure that the brick disappears, so before I test it though, I'm going to go to the brick, and we're going to go ahead and add the collision event with the ball. And we're just going to add a destroy instance. Remember, that is the garbage can. Right? So you have the destroy instance, and because we're doing it in the brick, it'll just destroy the brick's instance and won't do anything to the ball. Ball's going to bounce. Because we have, we've already got everything set up in the room, we should just be able to run it, and it should work. Now, if it looks like your bricks aren't disappearing, see, my brick disappeared. If it looks like your bricks aren't disappearing, it's possible that you could have placed a couple of instances in the same spot. So what happens is it'll hit one, break it, it'll disappear, but then there'll be another one underneath. So if that's the case, then you just need to check and see that you get rid of the instance in front. But it looks like for me, my ball is bouncing off the bricks just fine. You can see it. I'll do it one more time here. Ball is bouncing off the bricks, and the bricks are disappearing, and that's what we want. We'll worry about the scoring and stuff later. I just want to get the basic mechanics of bouncing the ball off of the bricks right now. All right, so now that we've got the ball bouncing off of bricks and bricks breaking, excuse me, we're going to do bouncing off of the walls. Okay? So this might be harder to test right away because we need to get the ball towards one of the walls to bounce off of it. But I think at least if we get the code in there, we can, if we have time, we can maybe set it up so that I can move the ball with the bat over and then try to bounce it off of the wall. And that's an easy thing to do. But the basics of bouncing off walls is merely changing one of the speed variables. So when we hit a sidewall, either the left side or the right side, we need to just flip the sign of the horizontal speed. Right? So we're going to grab the horizontal speed variable, the current one, and then we're going to change its speed to going to flip it so that the old horizontal speed, we just take the other sign of it for the new horizontal speed. Is that making sense? Right? Or we can actually just, we can probably just like change it as is. So that's what we're going to do. The challenge is that we only have one intersect boundary event. We don't have an intersect boundary event for all four sides, which means we need to use conditionals, if statements, in the intersect boundary like we did with the bat. Okay, so I'm going to move back. I'm going to go back to my workspace. I'm going to make sure I'm in the ball, which is up here. Let's see, that's the brick. Okay, here we go. OBJ ball. So hitting a wall is the equivalent of changing the sign of one of the two directional variables. If I hit a side wall, it's going to be changing horizontal speed. If I hit a top wall, it's going to be changing vertical speed. Okay? So I need to add, under Other, the intersect boundary event. Okay? The deal with intersect boundary is intersect boundary will trigger when the bounding box around the ball touches the outside. Okay? So our job is going to be to see where are the sides of the bounding box at. Is the left bounding box touching the left side of the wall, of the window? Is that the one that triggered? Because the intersect boundary is not going to tell me which side I hit. It's just going to trigger as soon as the bounding box touches any of the four sides. Which I guess is both kind of a blessing and a curse, right? I don't get to isolate top, bottom, left, right, but at the same time, all my code for hitting any of the walls is contained in one event. So I need to add if statements for each of the options. Left, right, left side, right, top side, right side. We'll worry about bottom later. Okay? Also, I'm not going to nest my ifs. They're going to be separate if statements. Because if I hit a corner, I want both those to trigger at about the same time. So, here we go. I need an if. And it's an if variable. Right? Remember that if variable checks a variable of some sort, and if that variable is a certain value, or based on some comparison, then we're going to do something. Okay? But each time we need the bounding boxes, right? Those were instance variables, so I need to get that. I'm going to drag that out here, the get instance variable, on top of the if variable. Because I want to get the left bounding box right now. Okay? Bounding box left. And then I'm going to call it left. And I'm going to click temp, because I'm creating a temporary variable. And then I'm going to check and see, is my left side, and I'm going to use less or equal. I'm going to hedge my bets. So if my left side, which is touching the left side of the screen, the value on the left side of the screen, remember, left is just, the bounding box left is just an x coordinate of the left side of the ball. If the left side of the ball, if its x coordinate is the same as the x coordinate of the left side of the screen, which is 0, or less, then I'm going to execute a bounce. Now I could do this with two variables. I could get the current speed and then change the current speed. I'm going to go ahead and do it in one fell swoop. Just because.
No, just stop. Just stop.
So, I'm going to scroll down to movement and do a set speed. Okay. If I'm hitting the left side of the screen, I want to switch the ball speed. So I'm going to switch the horizontal speed. And here's what I'm going to do. Negative h speed. You see that's a built-in variable. Negative h speed, right? So keep in mind that going from left to right, my speed should just be, my h speed should just have the sign flipped. This is for left, right? So we checked, we got the left bounding box. We got the value of the left bounding box. We stored it in a temporary variable called left. Now we're checking that variable to see is it less than or equal to the left side of my screen, which is 0. And if it is, great. We're going to change the horizontal speed and just flip the h speed variable. Okay? Now we're going to repeat that whole thing, but for right. Okay? Now here's where we need to be careful though, because we don't want to nest the next set of code inside the if statement. So when I drag out the getInstance variable, I want to drag it to below the if variable, not below the set speed. If I put it below the set speed, that puts it inside the if. It's only going to run if the left bounding box is touching the left side. Okay? So I'm dragging it to below where it says if variable and letting go. It's lined up now with the if variable along with the getInstance variable. This one, it's bounding box right. The variable I'll change to right. And then I'm going to click temp. And then I'm going to repeat the exact same thing. If variable right, I'm going to flip everything though. Greater than or equal room width. If variable right greater or equal room underscore width. Again, if I change my room width for some reason, I want to be prepared. So I'm being prepared. I'm hedging my bets. If that's true, we're going to change the horizontal speed the exact same way we changed the horizontal speed before. Negative h speed. Again, h speed is a built-in variable that is the current horizontal speed. Putting a negative in front of it changes the sign, whatever it is. We just need to do one more for top. Remember, bottom, we're going to lose a life, right? So we're going to do a different thing. So right now, we're not going to bounce. We'll do something different when that comes, but it's going to be the same sort of thing, right? We're going to do get bounding box bottom if bottom is greater than or equal to, but then it's just a different outcome. We'll just do different code inside the if. So here we go. One more. GetInstance variable, bounding box top, change the variable to top, click temp, add my if, scroll the correct direction, there we go, add my if top, also a less or equal, also a 0, but this time we're going to change the vertical speed, so set speed, vertical, negative v speed. Okay, so, oops, not what I wanted to do. All sorts of crazy stuff going on. Let me try that again. Negative v speed. Alright. Let me go. Hold on. Yes? V speed. V speed is vertical speed. H speed is horizontal speed. If we hit the top, we want to change the horizontal or the vertical speed. If we hit either side, we want to change the horizontal speed. Okay, so let me recap this before we get too far. Okay, in each case, we want to check and see where the bounding box is for whichever side we're hitting. So we have to check for the left bounding box. If the bounding box left is less than or equal to the left side of the screen, which is 0. If it is, flip the horizontal speed. So we do the similar thing for the bounding box right. We check the bounding box right to see if the bounding box right is greater than or equal to the right side of the screen, which is the room width. And again, we're using less than and greater than because we are hedging our bets. We don't know if we're going to hit those numbers exactly, so we're just going to hedge our bets. And as long as we hedge our bets, we stand a better chance of having this work. Okay? And then finally, for the top, we check the bounding box top. We check to see is it less than or equal to the top of the screen, which is 0. And if it is, we switch the vertical speeds sign so that it flips. Now, it is likely that you won't be able to test this today unless you obliterate all of your bricks, which is a you could do, right? Because we know the thing is we know that bouncing off the bricks works, so we can do that. We can go back to the room. If you press and hold Shift, you can select all your bricks, hit Delete, they're all gone, and then you can run this and see if it bounces off of. See if you can get it to bounce off of top and sides. So you just hit it. Look at that. It's going to go off my left, off my right, off my top. Remember that you can use the space bar multiple times. We'll fix that tomorrow. But we just want to see if we can get it to bounce off of all of the sides. And it looks like it's going to. At least I got mine to. Okay. So, I mean, that's all I'm going to do for today. In terms of bouncing, is I wanted to get it to bounce off of the sides, which it does. I wanted to get it to bounce off the bricks, which it does. And the bricks disappear. We'll worry about tomorrow. We'll worry about moving the ball with the bat, bouncing the ball off the bat, that sort of stuff to actually get this to be a game.